Okay, so here we go. This is kind of new for me, but I'm going to wing it. Anyway, I'm pretty heavily tattooed, so I thought that I would do my final presentation on the history of American tattooing. So, tattooing has been around since Neolithic times. It was a common practice throughout the ancient world. Mummified remains found in India and Egypt indicate that the art of tattooing is an ancient practice. Tattooing has also been practiced since ancient times in China, Japan, and the Philippines as well. Since this is a class that concerns art in Western society, I would like to focus on the history of tattooing in America, which predominantly centers around three artists: Sailor Jerry, Don Ed Hardy, and Lyle Tuttle. The art of tattooing in America is much younger than around the rest of the world. It first appeared in America after the American Revolution as a way for sailors to have their bodies identified if lost at sea or imprisoned by British Navy ships. For this reason, the history of American tattoo is largely associated with the Navy. The popularity of tattooing in America escalated in the late 30s and 40s thanks to Norman Collins, aka Sailor Jerry. That'd be this guy right here. For this presentation, I will be focusing on the three most well-known pioneers of American tattooing, as I had already mentioned. But I'm going to start out with Sailor Jerry. Sailor Jerry is given most of the credit for popularizing tattooing in America. He was born in Reno, Nevada, but he grew up in Northern California. At the age of 19, he joined the Navy. During his travels at sea, he learned about the art of Southeast Asia, which included Asian tattoo culture. He was shown how to use a tattoo machine by a guy named Tats Thomas in Chicago, and he practiced his developing skill on drunks from Skid Row. After his stint in the Navy, he worked as a skipper that gave tours of the Hawaiian Islands. It was here in Hawaii where he set up shop. He studied a lot of Japanese art and kept up correspondence with Japanese tattoo masters to perfect his skill. Artists and tattoo lovers would come from all over the world to see him. Sailor Jerry was famous for developing his own pigments, including the color purple. He's credited with being one of the first artists to use single-use needles that were less traumatic on the skin, and utilizing an autoclave for sterilization. It's basically a device to sterilize tattoos, but prior to Sailor Jerry, no one had ever used anything like that. He eventually relocated to his shop to a different area of Honolulu in Chinatown, where he spent the remainder of his life tattooing and taking on apprentices to teach his craft. One of these apprentices was a man named Don Ed Hardy. Before we get to Ed Hardy, I want to show some of Sailor Jerry's artwork. So this is known as tattoo flash. These are the stencils that artists use before they make a tattoo. So they're basically just artwork with pen and ink or paints or however they choose to do them. But Sailor Jerry is famous for all of these designs. These are his original designs. People still get them tattooed on themselves today. And this is Don Ed Hardy. He was an apprentice of Sailor Jerry and also one of the biggest names and pioneers of American tattoo. Hardy was born in Costa Mesa, California, and was a student at the San Francisco Art Institute. At some point after he graduated, he began to study and apprentice with Sailor Jerry. Thanks to Sailor Jerry's connections in Asia from his naval travels, Hardy was able to study tattooing in Japan with some of the Japanese greats. Hardy is credited with incorporating Japanese tattoo imagery and techniques into American tattooing. When Sailor Jerry died of a heart attack in 1973, he left his shop to Hardy with the instructions that if he ever were to lose ownership of it, to burn everything. The shop, all of his artwork, all of his notes, everything. Hardy is credited with taking tattoo-style artwork and applying it to non-tattoo-based art forms like printmaking, drawing, and painting. Hardy is still alive today at the age of 71, although he's retired and he no longer tattoos. He owns and oversees a shop in San Francisco, California called Tattoo City. I've actually been there when I visited San Francisco. It didn't work out. I wasn't able to get tattooed. I had tried, but the guy could only get me in at like 2 in the afternoon, and my flight left at noon, so I wasn't able to do it. But I did get to see some of Don Ed Hardy's original drawings in person. It was actually pretty incredible. But I have some of his work here as well. These are all slides that I actually made in Adobe InDesign. So I just put together a little compilation of artworks and made these printouts. So this is some of Ed Hardy's work. If you can tell, he has more, like this is all definitely Japanese influenced, but you can see how the style of artwork that Sailor Jerry had, and this is Ed Hardy's art, you can see how he was inspired or taught by Sailor Jerry, but how he incorporated the Japanese elements to make it his own. So the last pioneer of American tattooing that I want to introduce is an artist named Lyle Tuttle. That would be this guy.